Oh, he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. You haven't seen that?
But our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more.
Joe Rogan opens the conversation by reacting to how casually Tim Walz discusses some of the most extreme and controversial ideas in modern politics, particularly around gender policy and children. What immediately stands out to Joe isn't anger, but disbelief, the kind of disbelief that comes from hearing something so detached from everyday reality that it feels surreal. Rogan questions how ideas that deeply affect families and communities are framed as simple acts of empathy, without acknowledging the long-term consequences. This moment sets the tone for the entire breakdown, showing that the issue isn't just disagreement, but a growing gap between political language and common sense that leaves ordinary people asking how leadership drifted this far.
Think about Walz's descriptions of his military career, because there's some issues there that people have. I don't know if he flat out ever said that he served in Afghanistan, but he certainly didn't dissuade people from saying that he was, when they were saying he didn't correct them.
Right.
There was things
he did.
The discussion shifts toward the redesign of Minnesota's state flag, and Joe Rogan zeroes in on what this moment represents symbolically. Rather than focusing on whether the new flag looks good or bad, Joe questions why leaders invest so much energy into symbolism while practical issues remain unresolved. He points out that when politicians justify changes by calling the old symbols problematic, it often feels like an easy way to signal virtue without delivering real results. Rogan frames this as part of a larger pattern where appearance and messaging take priority over outcomes, leaving voters with the sense that politics has become more about image management than governance.
I don't know. Tim Walz is out there talking again.
Did you say he could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he'd kick their ass, and they're scared of him because he could fix a truck. Like they're threatened by his masculinity. I know how to fix a truck. So he said, like, do you? I bet you don't.
The lady doth protest too much.
I bet you don't.
I fear.
I bet if I bring a broken truck to you and a bag of tools,
that was kind of the redress, right? That was the attempt. It was like, we're gonna the symbol of masculinity on the left.
100% right with Tim Walz.
I know I'm doing something right when the Fox News crowd is all pitching at me like crazy. Like, I'm loving it.
That guy was almost the vice president of the United States.
Elon Musk was crying last week. Tim is being mean to me, base, like, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that thing where it shows Obama saying, I need a vice president that's dumber than me.
He may or may not have cognitive decline problems at his age, but at her age, she's just dumb.
Yeah, Biden
I think I would say
Joe Rogan takes a noticeably serious tone when the topic turns to Tim Walz's military record. Rogan makes it clear that the issue isn't whether Walz served, service itself deserves respect, but whether he allowed misleading impressions to spread without correcting them. Joe explains that when people assume combat experience or deployment and a politician stays silent, that silence becomes its own form of deception. For Rogan, honesty isn't just about what you say, but what you clarify, especially when it involves military service, sacrifice, and the trust of veterans who know the difference.
Tim Walz, cocksucker, if that guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room, and what about our joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square. Lied about being a fucking head coach.
So perfect.
And Kamala saying, I need a vice president dumber than me. It's Walz. Men have tampons.
We have a lot of accomplishments. We haven't taken adequate credit for it, frankly. We got to do a better job of getting the word out about what we have accomplished and who did it.
You got to lose, because we got to break this cycle.
In this clip, Rogan reacts to policies that quickly became public punchlines, such as the decision to place tampons in boys' bathrooms. Joe doesn't approach the topic with cruelty, but with genuine confusion over priorities. He argues that when leadership makes decisions that sound absurd to the average person, it's inevitable those decisions will overshadow more serious policy goals. Rogan explains how moments like this turn politicians into caricatures, making it nearly impossible for the public to take them seriously, regardless of intent.
This video of Tim Walz doing the exact same thing.
Right.
Exact same thing, and he said, of course, it's a salute. He said that.
Right.
We spent 3 days debating, having them trying to debate that President Musk gave a Nazi salute. Of course he did. But that is a distraction.
This is how crazy things have gotten. Like,
Joe Rogan breaks down Tim Walz's comments about fighting Trump supporters and fixing trucks, framing them as forced attempts to project toughness. Rather than sounding confident, Joe argues these statements come across as performative and insecure. He explains that real masculinity doesn't need to be announced or proven through exaggerated claims. This clip highlights how politicians often try too hard to manufacture relatability, only to expose the very insecurity they're trying to hide.
And there's no pushback. There's no like,
Right.
excuse me, I didn't go to Iraq, right?
Exactly.
And I retired, as my unit was deploying. And so
we were retired
Yeah.
a couple months before.
a couple months
deployed,
before,
right?
Yes,
what
but,
is the whole
but those
story
guys
behind
know
it?
they know that they're going, right? It's not
Right.
like they suddenly get a paper, on one day. There's a build up to that, and they're aware of it. And so, even his personnel were saying, look, we all knew we were going. He knew he was going. Now,
Rogan compares Walz's leadership style to running endlessly on a treadmill, constant motion with no real destination. He points out that speeches, appearances, and big promises create the illusion of productivity, but when measured against actual results, the progress feels non-existent. Joe emphasizes that voters are becoming more aware of the difference between movement and achievement. This clip resonates because it captures a frustration many people feel toward modern politics. Lots of noise, very little substance.
This video?
I haven't seen. Please play it.
It's probably a real person. It might not be Tim Walz. Trump is AI generated.
No, he slaps his...
I mean, that is hilarious.
Oh, it's definitely him. This is all 100% real, Jamie. You're a plant by the
Jamie's
government.
compromised.
On top says it's AI generated.
Riley
so
Moore
much.
fell for an AI-generated video of Minnesota government. I fell for it too. And do you know why I fell for it?
Yeah.
Because I believe that he...
The tone shifts sharply when Joe Rogan addresses comments about restricting speech labeled as misinformation or hate speech. Joe pushes back hard, arguing that once governments begin deciding which opinions are acceptable, free expression is no longer secure. He explains that history shows censorship rarely stops where it begins. For Rogan, protecting speech means protecting uncomfortable speech, because once that line is crossed, democracy itself becomes fragile.
I mean, they were talking about cracking down on hate speech online. Like, that free speech is not hate speech. That Tim Walz guy was actually saying that.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Hate speech.
No.
For the video of him taking down the Minnesota flag and he replaced it with the new flag that looks a lot like the Somali flag. Minnesota has a huge population of Somalis in it. All right, ready? Whoa, wait a minute. So he gets the flag, picks it up, and replaces it.
There, that's better.
Joe dismantles the idea that Tim Walz is a naturally relatable leader. He explains how carefully scripted language, awkward humor, and repeated buzzwords don't create authenticity, they simulate it. Rogan compares this behavior to corporate branding disguised as sincerity, where politicians try to sound folksy without actually connecting. This clip challenges viewers to think critically about what real relatability looks like and whether words alone can create trust.
Complete pathological liar.
Let's be honest, there are outsiders coming into communities, stealing and moving jobs away, and making life harder for people living there. And they have names, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square, lied about being a head coach of a football team.
Because this started, and I love this story, as a young prosecutor. Kamala Harris talked about going in that courtroom for the first time.
Pathological liars. People that are habitual liars. They just lie all the time about everything.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't deploy for war. You didn't. Why are you saying you deployed at war? The weapons you used in war? No. You were in war.
I plan on waking.
Rogan identifies a troubling pattern where criticism seems to bounce off Walz entirely, as if he's operating inside his own version of reality. Joe explains that confidence becomes dangerous when it turns into denial, especially when mistakes are reframed as victories. This clip digs into the psychology of leadership, showing how refusal to acknowledge errors leads to repeated failure. Rogan argues that self-awareness, not confidence, is the true mark of competence. Joe Rogan closes by making it clear that Tim Walz isn't a mastermind or a villain, he's something far more revealing. Rogan explains that he didn't need secret documents or dramatic exposés, all he did was let Walz speak and act as he normally does. What emerged wasn't corruption, but unintentional comedy fueled by overconfidence and lack of self-awareness. Joe frames this not as a one-time embarrassment, but as a pattern that explains why so many people are losing faith in political leadership altogether.
He believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13.
So for those out there who are wondering, aren't there something else you could be doing or doesn't seem to impact you in your life? This is what it means to show empathy. This is what it means to be welcoming.
He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like a Somali flag. You haven't seen that?
But our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more
100% right with Tim Walz.
I know I'm doing something right when the Fox News crowd is all pitching at me like crazy. Like, I'm loving it.
That guy was almost the vice president of the United States.
Elon Musk was crying last week. Tim is being mean to me, basically, you know, like, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that thing where it shows Obama saying, I need a vice president that's dumber than me.
He may or may not have cognitive decline problems at his age, but at her age, she's just dumb.
Yeah,
Biden and
I think I
Biden
was
saying,
saying